of articles and features from USA Today for Wednesday, April 22nd. Your reader for this hour is Mary Gilmore. Earth Day. Companies aim to stamp out carbon footprint. They attract customers, reap profits by cutting emissions. From driving electric vehicles to installing solar panels, many Americans are trying to reduce their carbon footprint. For Earth Day on April 22nd, USA Today takes a closer look at companies doing the same. By the way, happy Earth Day. To better understand which USA companies are making strides toward tackling climate change, USA Today has partnered with market research firm Statista for its 4th annual American Climate Leaders List. In 4 years, this list has grown from 300 to 500 companies. This list remains one of the few tools available to climate-conscious readers who want to learn more about companies successfully reducing their emissions. Previous federal efforts to introduce a similar tool have been halted with no clear indication of resuming. This year's top list makers include technology company Rambus, furniture company The Lovesac Company, and fintech company Tradeweb Markets. Each organization reduced its core emissions by 90% year over year. Many companies see a real financial benefit to cutting their emissions. It can lower costs and attract new customers. American and global consumers care, let me put the emphasis better in that sentence. American and global consumers care and are worried about climate change, so there's a clear incentive for companies that are providing goods and services to those people to address their needs and expectations, said Joe Avery, director of the Wrigley Institute for Environmental Studies at the University of Southern California. Being seen as climate-friendly creates a nice, warm glow around your enterprise, and from a climate perspective can be beneficial. But it's not just great optics. There are real financial benefits for companies that promote green initiatives and increase efforts to tackle climate change. A 2025 report by Boston Consulting Group found that 82% of surveyed companies receive economic benefits from decarbonization or the process of working toward the elimination of greenhouse gas emissions. The study further found that many consumers are willing to pay more for sustainable products, while companies are saving money through the increased efficiency resulting from climate initiatives. How do Statista and the USA Today choose the top companies? Statista began with a list of more than 2,000 U.S.-based companies with revenue of over $50 million in 2024. It compiles the company's greenhouse gas emission reports and revenues for 22 and 2024 by using sustainability and annual reports. Companies with absolute emissions increased by more than 50% between 2022 and 2024 were eliminated from the list. Here are some of the considerations used in the ranking. Emission intensity, the amount of greenhouse gas a company produces relative to its revenue. This helps put big companies and small companies on a level playing field. Analyze reductions in emission intensity calculated between 2022 and 2024. Companies that showed low reductions were not considered. Carbon disclosure rating, a measure of a company's environmental sustainability. These rankings are administered by CDP, the nonprofit that runs a global disclosure system for companies' environmental impacts. Other criteria. Some enterprises were excluded if known business practices suggested they couldn't be seen as a climate leader. Data used Scope 1 and 2 emissions based on the Greenhouse Gas Protocol, the world's most widely used greenhouse gas accounting standard. Lawyers abandoned the DOJ in droves. Former officials fear drain on prosecutions. Since President Donald Trump retook the Oval Office, the Justice Department has been plagued by accusations that it wasn't transparent about its files on convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, and that it has become a weapon for Trump to target his political opponents and critics. A third major theme at the department in the past 15 months has gotten much less attention, but is no less dramatic: the exodus of thousands of lawyers, including many who had decades of experience at the DOJ. More than 3,300 attorneys left the Justice Department between Trump's first day back in office and February 2026, according to data from the Office of Personnel Management, OPM. Meanwhile, only about 800 attorneys have been hired. The impact of those exits could turn out to be the most lasting, potentially weakening the Justice Department for many years to come. Several former long-term DOJ lawyers who worked across areas told the USA Today. When political leaders come into the department and immediately begin acting like tyrants and purging the people who know how to run things, that's going to have a real destabilizing effect, and it absolutely has, said Stacey Young, who was a senior attorney in the Civil Division and later in the Civil Rights Division over 18 years. Young left the DOJ a few days into the new administration and has since founded Justice Connection, which supports those who have left and combats what it sees as threats to the rule of law under the Trump administration. Though the administration has beefed up DOJ immigration enforcement, the stream of attorney exits has weakened the department's ability to enforce the law across a range of traditional priorities, including tax enforcement, anti-narcotics efforts, white-collar crime, national security, environmental enforcement, and civil rights, former officials told the USA Today. Spokesman Natalie Baldassar told USA Today in a statement that the DOJ has more than 10,000 lawyers committed to restoring public safety and upholding the rule of law, and is now the most efficient department of justice in American history. Our country has the lowest murder rate in 125 years. We've arrested more than 90 key cartel leaders and removed millions of deadly doses of fentanyl from our streets, all on top of achieving a record 24 successful rulings at the Supreme Court, Baldassar said. President Trump will not waver when lawfully implementing the agenda he was elected on, White House spokesperson Abigail Jackson told USA Today in a statement. Even the net loss of about 2,500 lawyers doesn't tell the full story, which also includes a massive loss of legal experience in government. Former FBI senior intelligence analyst Philip Fields developed an online tool that breaks down OPM's data from January 2025 to January 2026, showing that lawyers who left spent on average about 14 years at the department and about 740 held leadership positions. Lawyers who have been hired are unlikely to have the same type of experience, Fields said. The data published by OPM shows that the new hires generally weren't transfers from another part of the government, he noted. That doesn't mean that these people are all fresh out of law school, Fields told USA Today, but the assumption is that they're going to have far less experience and qualifications. Some of the departures from the department have been firings. In Trump's first month back in office, The DOJ fired dozens of prosecutors who worked on the cases arising from the January 6, 2021 riot at the Capitol by Trump supporters, Politico reported. That same month, it also fired prosecutors who worked on investigations into Trump. Some have departed the administration after interference with their work or out of concern that they may be asked to do something unethical. Several prosecutors resigned after the Trump administration ordered them to drop a bribery case against the then New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Several other prosecutors resigned over the DOJ's reluctance to investigate a federal immigration agent who shot and killed Minneapolis resident Renee Good, and its desire to instead investigate Good's widow, the Minnesota Star Tribune and New York Times reported. Many of the departures have been voluntary, if under pressure. Some officials left after the administration tried to reassign them to different roles, such as working on immigration. Many left under the Trump administration's deferred resignation program, which offered several months of pay without work to those who opted to leave and left uncertainty for those who remained about whether their jobs were secure. Gilbert Rothenberg, a former longtime official at the tax division, which the Trump administration dissolved in late 2025, shifted tax lawyers to other divisions, said younger lawyers' sense of job security weakened after watching career lawyers being forced out. The rank and file saw that, and they said, "Holy moly, is my job at risk?" Rothenberg, who retired from the DOJ in 2019, told the USA Today. Low morale after the departures, which have increased the workload for those who remained, has been a driving force for exits, some former DOJ officials said. The job is just overwhelming and it's becoming untenable for some people, Young said. Balthazar of the DOJ said the administration offered deferred resignations to allow employees a chance to leave if they did not want to aggressively and faithfully tackle crime to protect the American people. This allowed DOJ to run more efficiently and hire new employees who wholeheartedly believed in the mission. Focus shifts to immigration. One area is receiving more resources from the Justice Department, immigration. A memo in January 2025 directed DOJ anti-terrorism investigators to assist with Trump's initiatives related to illegal immigration. That same month, career officials in the criminal and national security divisions were reassigned to roles advancing Trump's immigration agenda. The DOJ prosecuted 32,000 new immigration cases in its first 6 months, which was nearly triple the number that Biden's administration prosecuted in the same time, according to ProPublica, a nonprofit news site that analyzed data from the Justice Department and from Transactional Records Access Clearinghouse, which gets data through Freedom of Information Act requests. But that may have come at the cost of other areas of law enforcement. ProPublica found a drop in prosecutions of nearly every other type of crime compared with the Biden administration's first 6 months. Balthazar noted that the drop partly reflects that the DOJ updated records on cases that were already closed and said the department can't vouch for the clearinghouse's data. This Department of Justice remains committed to investigating and prosecuting all types of crime, and the number of declinations is a direct result of efforts to run the agency in a more efficient manner, she said. The Justice Department brings civil cases in addition to criminal prosecutions, and there has also been a drop in certain civil enforcement. You're listening to a reading of today's issue of the USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 15 minutes after the hour. In Trump's first year back in office, at least 140 lawyers from the DOJ's Environment and Natural Resources Division, 1/3 of its lawyers left, according to E&E News, a Politico publication. In the same time, environmental enforcement actions have collapsed. A December analysis from Earth Justice, an environmental law nonprofit, found the division's environmental enforcement section imposed only $15.1 million in civil penalties in the first 11 months of Trump's inauguration. The year before, it brought in $1.88 billion in civil fines. Andrew Mergen, a former official in the DOJ's Environment and Natural Resources section, said that the department has shifted lawyers from working on environmental enforcement to defending the administration against lawsuits that accuse it of not enforcing or following environmental laws and rules. If your agenda is drill baby drill or mine baby mine, there are going to be groups who are going to sue, and you're going to need to throw bodies at that, he said. The Trump administration also got rid of the tax division, which was created in 1934, in the late 2025, shifting its remaining lawyers into the DOJ's existing civil division and criminal division. In February, an official wrote in a court filing that more than 40% of the lawyers who handle appeals in tax cases had retired, resigned, or been temporarily transferred over the previous year. Rothenberg said that when he was writing budget proposals, he would highlight evidence that for every dollar spent on the DOJ's tax division, it brought in several times more. I've never understood an administration that doesn't want to bulk up tax group at both IRS and DOJ to raise more money, Rothenberg said. From a public policy point of view, it's foolish. The DOJ's criminal division has also seen a stream of exits since Trump's return to office. Joseph Gerbasi, who spent decades in the division, retired in March 2025 from his role as acting deputy chief for policy in the narcotic and dangerous drugs section, a group that has now been merged into the division's section on money laundering. Only one person is left from what was a 5-lawyer policy unit, he told USA Today. The cartel leaders are probably laughing at us, Gerbasi said. It's just going to result in fewer prosecutions, fewer extraditions, fewer successful damaging blows to the cartels. Baldassar said fighting drug trafficking is one of several top priorities for the DOJ. The Department of Justice is acutely focused on protecting our national security, eliminating transnational drug cartels and traffickers, prosecuting criminals, and safeguarding Americans from violent crime, Baldassar said. Assisting our partners with immigration enforcement has not deterred our ability to successfully investigate and prosecute other types of crime to keep American citizens safe. The Trump administration has also wiped out most of the DOJ's Civil Rights Division. The division's new head, Harmeet Dhillon, said on a Breitbart News podcast in August that about 75% of its lawyers, about 300 out of 400, have left in the first 7 months of the new administration. Dhillon intended the statement as a boast. The Trump administration wants to redirect the division's efforts. Under Trump, the Justice Department dropped lawsuits brought under President Joe Biden that accused police departments in Louisville and Minnesota of violating civil rights. It also abandoned agreements that governed policy practices in those departments going forward. Instead, The Civil Rights Division is investigating potential racial preferences in employment and university admissions, religious liberty issues, and local limitations on gun ownership. Conservative supporters say these shifts are legitimate policy changes. The changes and reallocation of resources at the Justice Department reflect the prosecutorial priorities of this administration, as they do in any administration, Zach Smith, a senior legal fellow at the Conservative Heritage Foundation, said in a statement to USA Today. Patrick Kent, a former DOJ Civil Rights Division lawyer who exited the department in 2025, said the massive loss of personnel will make it hard for a new administration to pivot back. Even when there is ultimately a change in administration, you're not going to replace 3/4 of the lawyers who have served years, if not decades, Kent told USA Today. The trust by the communities where we simply stopped enforcing our investigations is lost. Judges are getting annoyed. Amid the drastic changes, judges are increasingly expressing frustration at the Justice Department's attorneys who have failed to meet deadlines or have failed to ensure the administration complies with court orders. Some judges have even questioned DOJ's lawyers' honesty. Minnesota federal judge Patrick J. Schlitz, a President George W. Bush appointee, wrote in February 26th court order that U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement violated 210 orders across 143 separate cases. Increasingly, this court has had to resort to using the threat of civil contempt to force ICE to comply with orders, Schlitz wrote. The court is not aware of another occasion in the history of the United States in which a federal court has had to threaten contempt again and again and again to force the United States government to comply with court orders. Just Security, a law and policy publication based at New York University's Law School, identified 34 separate cases in which courts expressed concerns about noncompliance with judicial orders and 90 cases in which courts expressed distrust of government information and representations during the first year of the Trump administration. Young said DOJ lawyers are also increasingly requesting deadline extensions or otherwise missing deadlines as the pressures of understaffing mount. Just this week, California federal judge Troy L. Nully, a President Barack Obama appointee, sanctioned a DOJ lawyer in an immigration case for multiple failures to meet deadlines and follow orders. While the court recognizes that mistakes can occur, repeated violations of court orders cannot be excused as mere oversight, Nunley wrote in the April 15th order. The Trump administration says the judges who have criticized it are the ones who need more scrutiny. The only group losing credibility are the radical left-wing lower court judges using unlawful rulings to advance their own agenda, White House spokesperson Abigail Jackson told the USA Today in a statement. Jackson said many district court rulings that went against the administration were later overturned on appeal, and President Trump's entire administration is lawfully implementing the America First agenda he was elected to enact. The administration will continue to comply with lawful court rulings and appeal those lawless opinions of radical left-wing district court judges, she said. The DOJ's Baltazar said the administration complies with the court orders and is committed to enforcing our nation's immigration laws. Despite the administration's defenses, some fear that the Justice Department's reputation is taking a hit in the courts that will be hard to win back. You have judges today questioning whether they can adhere to what a DOJ attorney tells them in court, and that's just unfathomable to me, Rothenberg said. Motive still a mystery in ambush of firemen. Dark details emerge in the 2025 Idaho attack. A routine wildland fire call in Idaho took a harrowing turn last summer when an arriving firefighter discovered 3 of his colleagues had been shot. He put out a chilling radio call, "They are shooting at us." A new report obtained by USA Today details the 2025 ambush and double homicide carried out by Wes Rowley, 20, who set a wildfire on Canfield Mountain, then attacked arriving firefighters with a shotgun. He left behind hints at isolation, despair, and an affinity for extremist ideologies. The motive behind the murders is speculative at best and is only known to Rowley, wrote lead Kootenai County Detective Derek Hollenbeck at the end of his 76-page report. Due to Rowley being deceased, his reasons and motive will likely never be known. Investigators revealed previously undisclosed details from the intentionally set wildfire and the June 29th attack. It clarified initial reporting that called the man a sniper. Instead, all 3 firefighters were shot with a 12-gauge shotgun at close range. It provides new details on the confusion and police tactics during the response. Fearing multiple shooters and working to prevent their escape, officers shot flat the tires of cars, trucks, and motorcycles in the area and rolled the shooter's truck down a ravine. During the frenzied police response, an Idaho State Patrol trooper deployed a drone that flew off uncontrolled. The trooper then forgot to put his vehicle in park and it rolled off the road, unlocked, with firearms inside. The report reveals a police investigation into the shooter that spanned cell phone location data obtained by the FBI, military recruitment records from the U.S. Army, firearms trace reports from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, and search warrant returns for records from Apple, Facebook, Google, and TikTok. Gabe Eckert, president of Coeur d'Alene Firefighters 710 Union, told USA Today the report's findings mirror what union officials pieced together. No one knows what drove the attack. Some things in life you'll never know or understand, he said. It is incredibly raw still. These guys are starting to move forward a little bit, Eckert said. Setting up an ambush. The report describes the timeline leading up to the attack where the shooter obtained his weapons. He purchased the Mossberg Maverick 88 12-gauge shotgun in Idaho on March 23, 2025. The weapon is considered a value price pump action and sells for roughly $250. Throughout the spring and summer, hikers and motorcyclists spotted the man in the mountains who they sometimes saw camping. Days before the June 29 attack, surveillance video showed the shooter making several trips to the Black Sheep sporting goods store in Coeur d'Alene. He purchased a shotgun shell belt, foam earplugs, and 2 boxes of 1-ounce normal whitetail shotgun slugs. On a separate trip the same day, he bought a $75 hunting knife affixed with a flint fire striker. A day before the attack, he visited the same store for 2 more boxes of ammunition and a drink called Ignite Tiger's Blood, which police say advertised to provide an increase in energy and focus. On June 28th, the suspect took photos practicing with his shotgun and shooting at a stump in the woods, according to search warrant returns from Apple. The attack on Nettleton Gulch. Piecing together data from the FBI of the shooter's cell phone, surveillance video, and audio from the firefighting trucks, investigators developed a timeline of the shooting on June 29, 2025. The USA Today previously reported on the shooter's background, but the report provided new details. He grew up in Phoenix, where classmates said he was obsessed with guns, had thoughts of joining the Army, and had a fascination with Nazism. Several friends used the same word to describe him: edgy. You're listening to a reading of today's issue of the USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 30 minutes past the hour. In the money issue, we will do the 50 states and see what's going on in each of them. Alabama, Anniston. Regional Medical Center has been bought out by a larger health care system, which the city of Anniston says will designate the hospital as a hub for high-quality health care. Alaska, Palmer. The Alaska State Fair may owe the city an additional $100,000 after the City Council approved a temporary sales tax increase from 3 to 4%. A change fair officials say they couldn't factor into the contracts because it wasn't proposed or approved at the time, Mat-Su Sentinel reported. Arizona, Phoenix. Arizona's largest power company agreed to a $7 million settlement following a state investigation and the death of a Sun City woman whose power was shut off 6 days earlier, State Attorney General Chris Mays announced. Arizona Public Service Company will also change how it handles service disconnections in the sweltering summer, agreeing not to cut off customers' power for non-payment when temperatures climb past 95 degrees, according to Mays' office. Arkansas, Little Rock. Arkansas's ranchers are tapping into hay reserves and bracing for reduced forage production as drought continues to intensify across nearly the entire state. According to the April 9th U.S. Drought Monitor, 99.96% of Arkansas is experiencing some level of drought, with the most severe condition, exceptional drought, more than doubling in recent weeks. California, Coachella. Controversy is growing over plans for a new data center on the 240 acres of agricultural land on Coachella's east side. Colorado, Fort Collins. Draconian cuts that President Amy Parsons warned of earlier in the semester to address a $55 million shortfall won't impact all departments equally, and the number of Colorado State University employees directly impacted by layoffs will be fewer than 1% of the total, Parsons and Chief Financial Officer Brandon Halen said. Connecticut, Plainfield. The Plainfield Fire District is set to receive more than $18 million in funding to build a new fire station, according to a community announcement. Delaware, Dover. A moving company with 24,000 locations across 50 states reports that Delaware slipped in its rankings for a net in-migration, which compares how many people move into the state versus how many people leave. Delaware fell to 33rd on the U-Haul Growth Index in 2025, down from 21st in 2024 and 15th in 2023. District of Columbia, Washington. FBI Director Kash Patel filed a defamation lawsuit against The Atlantic and its reporter Sarah Fitzpatrick, following the publication of an article alleging the director had a drinking problem that could pose a threat to national security. Florida, Tallahassee. Florida education leaders have moved to block introductory sociology courses from counting toward general education requirements at all state colleges. Georgia, Atlanta. Major online home goods retailer Wayfair has opened its first brick-and-mortar store in the South in Atlanta. The new location marks the company's second physical store overall. Hawaii, Honolulu. Governor George Arishai, Hawaii's third and longest-serving governor and the first Asian American to lead any U.S. state, has died at age 100, KHON2 reported. Idaho, Ketchum. The city has decided to end its 17-year partnership with the Blaine County Sheriff's Office and create its own municipal police department, KTVB 7 reported. Illinois, Springfield. As the number of data centers keeps increasing in Illinois, a new poll found many residents are in favor of regulations for the data centers. A recent poll conducted by Global Strategy Group surveyed 800 likely voters across the state. The results showed many are in favor of the Power Act, which would establish environmental, water, and energy regulations for hyperscale data centers. Indianapolis. A new chat box developed by Governor Mike Braun's administration aims to make healthcare price data more accessible to Hoosiers. Braun's administration says the new chat box is a first-of-its-kind tool that will enhance transparency and support informed health decision-making. Iowa, Des Moines. Iowa State Auditor Rob Sand can't demand access to communications between the subjects of audits and attorneys, the Iowa Supreme Court says. The decision is another setback for the elected watchdog who is battling previous limits imposed by the legislature as he campaigns for governor. Kansas, Salina. Governor Laura Kelly celebrated one of the largest employers in Salina as the state's exporter of the year for 2025. Geoprobe Designs manufactures and tests drill rigs used in a variety of applications. Kentucky, Frankfort. Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman, who has served as two-term Democratic Governor Andy Beshear's second-in-command throughout his time in office, launched her 2027 gubernatorial campaign in Frankfort, according to her campaign website. Louisiana, Shreveport. Louisiana is among the unhealthiest states in the nation, as 27.6% of adults in the state are physically inactive, and 1 in 7 people struggle to provide a healthy meal for themselves, according to America's Health Rankings. Shreveport is the 4th unhealthiest city in the United States. Maine, York. The long-awaited York Village revitalization project could face more delays as the town select board decides how to address a nearly $1 million gap in its funding. Maryland, Annapolis. Maryland's online real property search tool has been down for a week after state officials detected suspicious activity on servers running the search's website application. Massachusetts, Framingham. Framingham's plan for a new elementary school is gaining momentum as city officials weigh renovating the aging Hemingway Elementary School against building a new Southside Elementary School that could support the district's push for a universal pre-kindergarten. Michigan, Novi. Sheetz will open its first store in the city on April 28th. the 8th in Michigan for the convenience chain which offers gas, a restaurant, and more. Minnesota, St. Paul. The U.S. Senate voted to allow sulfide mining in areas near the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness, Minnesota Reformer reported. Mississippi, Jackson. At least 1 in 5 adults in Mississippi counties say they didn't always have enough to eat in the past year. For some, it wasn't just an occasional skip meal, it was going hungry. Mississippi has some of the highest levels of food insecurity in the nation, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Missouri, Springfield. After nearly 5 years, Dickerson Park Zoo has opened its new beer boardwalk, which connects the Missouri State University Beer Country exhibit to the Ozarks Tech Eagle exhibit after much-needed improvements. Montana, Helena. Montana Fish, Wildlife and Parks announced that it has added golden mussels to the state's invasive species list, the Daily Montana Tannin reported. Okay, so golden mussels are an invasive species in Montana. Nebraska, Lincoln. Nebraska Secretary of State Bob Even will launch a 5-day election transparency tour, visiting 8 county offices to observe ballot equipment testing ahead of the May 12th primary, KOLN reported. Nevada, Washoe County. Former Washoe County School District employee Caitlin Rock was sentenced to 144 years to life in prison for the sexual assault and sexual seduction of a former Billinghurst Middle School student beginning when he was 13. New Hampshire, Portsmouth. City school officials have set a policy limiting the number of out-of-district students that could attend Portsmouth High School amid Republican state legislative efforts to enact universal public school open enrollment. New Jersey, Trenton. Revisions released to New Jersey's labor market data show that the state added even fewer jobs in 2025 than previously thought. The numbers showed that the state added just 5,100 jobs in 2025, down from the previously estimated 9,000. New Mexico, Albuquerque. Bernalillo County's headquarters bridge project in downtown Albuquerque is delayed after unexpected infrastructure damage was discovered, KRQE reported. New York, Albany. New York is one of the greenest or most environmentally friendly states, a new WalletHub study found. New York is the 4th greenest state in the country, according to WalletHub. North Carolina, Cherokee. Western North Carolina might not have an Amtrak line, but those who travel on the region's excursion trains are generating a significant economic impact. In 2024, Great Smoky Mountains Railroad attracted more than 250,000 people to Bryson City, according to a 2025 Economic Impact Report from the North Carolina State University Institute for Transportation, Research, and Education. The railway supports 1,435 jobs, $191 million in annual economic output, and $10 million in local and state revenues, according to the report. North Dakota, Bismarck. The North Dakota University System announced that the search for Valley City State University's next president has been suspended, North Dakota Monitor reported. Oklahoma, Norman. After nearly 6 years of planning, Norman officials are moving forward with an effort to build a permanent low-barrier homeless shelter, a project Mayor Stephen Holman says is long overdue for the state's third largest city, where homelessness is not going away. You're listening to a reading of today's issue of the USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 45 minutes past the hour. Oregon, Salem. Oregon's known wolf population grew by 13% overall and 79% in the western half of the state as Canis lupus continued to spread in the Beaver State during 2025. The minimum number of wolves in Oregon was 230 in 2025, up from 203 in the previous year, and 178 in 2023, according to the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife's annual wolf report. Pennsylvania, Harrisburg. Pennsylvania's elder care advocates are warning of a crisis as dozens of nursing homes are closing their doors and the Commonwealth confronts a rapidly graying population. Many of the Keystone State's nursing home operators are saying that chronic Medicaid underfunding and workforce shortages have weakened them and forced them to reduce the number of residents they serve, according to the new survey. Rhode Island, Smithfield. An investigation by the Rhode Island Attorney General's office found several failures in the Smithfield Public Schools' response to the bullying of a freshman football player, an incident that reportedly included anti-Semitic epithets and conduct, Attorney General Peter F. Naroa said. South Carolina, Gaston. Police said a rodeo event was shut down on April 18th after several people were trampled by horses and members of a large crowd threw beer cans at first responders, WLTX reported. South Dakota, Hot Springs. A public hearing about an application to explore underground for uranium in the Black Hills has been rescheduled to May 18th through May 22nd, South Dakota Searchlight reported. Tennessee, Middleton. In what officials are describing as a state-of-the-art, one-of-a-kind facility that will save Tennessean lives from flooding, ground was broken on Future Water Education and Training Center on the 1,200-acre property of Lone Oaks Farm in Middleton. A 5-acre education facility will be built where people both in and out of Tennessee will learn the impacts of water on infrastructure and public safety. Poised to open in the fall of 2027, the preliminary estimated construction cost is slated at $22.8 million. Texas, Houston. Tesla is rolling out its robotaxi in Dallas and Houston, the electric vehicle maker said, marking further expansion of its Nanset service in the United States since its Austin, Texas launch last year. Utah, Provo. The Utah Lake Authority has launched a new campaign to educate the public about harmful algae blooms, KSL reported. Vermont, Burlington. One of Vermont's few mosques is racing against the clock to purchase 2 new buildings its leaders say will better serve the growing Muslim community around Burlington. The Islamic Community Center of Vermont, which currently operates out of a cramped Winooski building, said it needs to raise $100,000 by April 28th to guarantee ownership of 2 much larger Burlington properties. Virginia, Stanton. This summer, Virginia will become a top destination for passengers wishing to catch a ride behind a legendary steam train. This is not just any steam train. It's the famed N&W Class J 611 built in Virginia, which previously made sold-out appearances running as the Shenandoah Valley Limited in the fall of 2023 and 2025. Virginia's 2026 Summer of Steam kicks off in June with a 2-week residency in historic Staunton, Then it will relocate for a final 2-week run from the town of Louisa. Excursions will begin in Stanton on June 12th and conclude in Louisa on July 5th. West Virginia, Morgantown. West Virginia University's Board of Governors approved a new Bachelor of Science in Construction Management set to launch in fall of 2026, WDTV reported. Wisconsin, Green Bay. UW Health is the new official health care partner of the Green Bay Packers, succeeding Amplify Bellin Health. UW Health and the Packers will participate in joint community initiatives and fan-focused events, and UW Health will have a visible presence at Lambeau Field as part of the multi-year deal. Wyoming, Cheyenne. Laramie County is reviewing a permit for an 800-unit temporary workforce housing project south of Cheyenne that could host up to 5,600 workers, a proposal facing significant opposition from nearby residents, the Wyoming Tribune-Eagle reported. Our highlighted state, Ohio. Kent State University archaeologists said stone tools found by Joshua Fetter, who was 11 years old at the time, may date back nearly 2,000 years to prehistoric Adena culture. 5 years after he found what turned out to be 2,000-year-old stone tools while on a day trip with his family, Norton teen Joshua Fetter was at Kent State University to celebrate his find. Dr. Meaton Aaron of Kent State's Department of Experimental Archaeology said his team has spent years studying the artifacts, and the team's research suggests that they may be linked to the Adena culture. The Native American culture was one of the first to cultivate plants while also hunting and gathering. The Joshua Cache, a collection of 11 stone tools, will have a permanent home in the Cleveland Museum of Natural History. Turnus to take over as Apple's next CEO. He is a 25-year-old veteran of the tech company. There may be some glimpses of what the future of Apple will look like under the new leadership of John Ternus based on the interviews he has done in the past. Ternus, Apple's current senior vice president of hardware engineering and a 25-year veteran of the company, will succeed Tim Cook as CEO as of September 1st. The tech giant announced this on April 20th, when Cook was stepping down. Ternus makes sense to take the reins, said Brian Tong, host of the Apple Blitz podcast, who has covered Apple for 18 years. It seems like a natural transition, and John Ternus has really been groomed for this, Tong told USA Today. And Ternus has previously said that Apple's ability to blend its design with its own in-house technologies rather than those from an outside company has allowed the tech giant to push the envelope when it comes to innovation. I think one of the most, if not the most, profound change at Apple certainly is our products over the last 20 years, is how we now do so many of these technologies in-house, he said in an interview with CNBC on December 23, 2023. I'm really excited about the products that we're making and even more excited about the things that we're going to be delivering in the future. There's just so much opportunity here for us. Ternus has worked his way up. Ternus, who has worked at Apple since 2001, has had the benefit of working for both Cook and the late Steve Jobs. He understands how Apple has evolved, said Tong. Since Ternus will be under pressure to show if Apple can come up with the next big thing under his leadership, Tong said. Will they be able to crack that nut of the foldable phone, the wearable glasses, or artificial intelligence, which up until this point they failed to do, he said. Many wonder who Cook was when he replaced Jobs. Many wondered who Cook was when he replaced Jobs as Apple CEO 15 years ago, And the same can be said about Turnus, said serial tech and entrepreneur Marcus Nelson, CEO for AI for Main Street. But Turnus will become a household name in no time, Nelson said. Cook was a logistics guy when Apple needed his guidance, and Turnus is a hardware guy at a time when AI is emerging and Apple is looking to dominate its share of the market. Turnus has had his imprint on almost everything Apple has done for the past 2 decades, from updated iPhones to creating its high-speed M-series chips to its new and more affordable MacBook Neo, Nelson said. This is the guy for this moment, Nelson said about Turnus. If Tim Cook was the guy for that moment, then John Turnus is the guy for this moment. Apple is always innovating. In the 2023 CNBC interview given alongside Apple's head of Silicon, Johnny Strowge, Turnus said the Mac was an interesting inflection point for Apple because it was one product where we had for years been building with other people's silicon, and then we, all of a sudden, got to build with our own. Asked what hardware launch tied to the company using its own silicon was his proudest moment, Turnus told CNBC. It's very hard for me to pick one. I can name a few. AirPods was an amazing thing, right? That was enabled by technology that we built in-house, and I think it fundamentally changed how people use earphones. He also noted the launch of the iPad and Mac computer. 3 years later, Turnus reiterated that Apple is always coming up with new ideas, including new materials, electrical and silicon designs. It is in an interview he gave to Mark Spooner, global editor-in-chief of Tom's Guide, with Greg Josiak, Apple Senior Vice President of World Marketing. Turnus discussed innovations after the launch of the MacBook Neo. You're listening to a reading of articles and features from the USA Today for April 22nd, 2026 on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. We'll return for more readings after this short break. Your reader for this hour has been Mary Gilmore. Thank you so much.
You're listening to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. As of this year, our agency has broadcast more than 300,000 hours of radio readings. Volunteer radio readers read newspapers, magazines, and books to area people who are blind or have a print disability, who are provided reading radios. Radio Reading's broadcast signal is provided at no charge by WNED. Radio Reading broadcasts from studios at 1199 Harlem Road in suburban Buffalo. Please let others know about Radio Reading. It's your service. For more information on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, call 716-821-5555.
continue now with our reading of articles from today's issue of the USA Today. Your reader for this hour is Nancy. This is the sports section. Mission accomplished. Val Ackerman's legacy rooted in basketball and will end with reviving Big East Conference. The Standard. For anyone looking for a career in basketball and wanting to excel with fierce determination, navigate the toughest challenges with impeccable style and grace, while still accomplishing the task at hand, they need to look no further than Naismith Basketball Hall of Famer Val Ackerman. After 4 decades of service to professional and college basketball in many roles, including her current position as the commissioner of the Big East Conference, Ackerman is retiring after 13 years at the helm, bringing the league back to its historic place in college athletics after nearly coming close to extinction. Ackerman will leave the position effective August 31st, and a national search for her successor will start immediately and be led by the conference's board of directors. When we refounded the Big East in 2013 as a basketball-centric conference, our first task was to find a commissioner who could provide the strategic vision needed to position us as a basketball peer with our football counterparts and compete with the country's best. We found that visionary leader in Val Ackerman, said St. John's President Reverend Brian Shanley, OP, chair of the Big East Board of Directors. She leaves big shoes to fill. Ackerman said her first contract at the Big East was for 5 years. After that contract had nearly expired, it was clear that the conference's power that be didn't want her going anywhere. Then they came back and said they wanted to sign me to a second contract. They said, "How about 5 years?" Ackerman told USA Today Sports, hilariously explaining how she ended up staying for 13 years. I said, "Okay, how about 3?" So I did that. Then that contract ran out and they came back to me and said, "Can we sign you up for another 5 years?" And I said, "How about 3?" And then I went through that, and then they came again and said, "How about another 5?" And I say, "How about 1?" The league is thriving with competitive teams and armed with a new media rights agreement with Fox, NBC Sports, and TNT Sports through the 2030-31 season. The obvious question is, why leave now? It just felt like the time was right for me. I'd come back to what retirement means. I did what I was hired to do, which was to put the pieces back together again when the storied league broke up, she said, adding she is leaving on her own volition. From a little girl shooting hoops outside of Pennington, New Jersey, home to playing the University of Virginia, Ackerman knew she wanted to work in sports after earning a law degree from UCLA in 1985. After being hired as a corporate associate at Simpson Thacher in New York, she tried in vain to secure her dream job. She still kept the numerous rejection letters, including one from the NBA. Undeterred, the opportunity came 3 years later, and the call came from Gary Bettman, the future NHL commissioner, who at the time was the NBA's general counsel and senior vice president, and who hired Ackerman as a junior lawyer at the league office. Once David Stern called her into his office 18 months later, asking her to help out on various projects, her career took off, including the timing of the International Olympic Committee, allowing nations to determine their own rules for professional athletes to compete at the Olympics. Ackerman got to travel to the Barcelona Olympics with the original Dream Team and laid the groundwork for the women to follow suit, eventually leading to the formation of the women's team in Atlanta in 1996 and her being asked to be the WNBA's first top executive. That was a kind of pinch-me moment working on the first Dream Team. I was there with some bandwidth and was asked to help out. So it wasn't a surprise that they asked me to do it, Ackerman said about the WNBA. It was an honor, not quite a surprise, because I was sort of the person in house at that time who was the women's basketball person. Ackerman served as WNBA president for 8 years, and the league thrived in its first few years before the novelty of the women's professional basketball began to erode. Things cooled off, and there were some hard years there as it related to numbers dropping and teams folding, she said. And we couldn't always relocate them. And that was 8 years, and then my kids were getting older, and I don't know. I would say there were moments I missed as a parent because of my focus on work. Yeah, wish I could get some of those moments back. When Ackerman was tapped to lead the Big East after 7 schools, DePaul, Georgetown, Marquette, Providence, St. John's, Seton Hall, and Villanova, separated from the original conference and from the football-playing schools to team up with Butler, Creighton, and Xavier, she knew that she was taking on a Herculean task. UConn completed the Big East Reclamation Project when it rejoined the league in 2020. Armed with a cell phone and pretty much nothing else, the mandate from the league's president was clear. Restore the glory and prestige of a once proud league with the confidence to do it how you see fit. When asked how difficult the job at hand would be on a scale of 1 to 10, Ackerman was not shy in her assessment of what she faced. 25, she says, almost matter-of-factly. It was really challenging, the most challenging thing I've ever done in my career. Even when the WNBA launched, we had David Stern make it a company priority, and I was sort of the tip of the spear, but the whole company was told, this is a priority project. Here it was, at the beginning, really just me for the most part. I tried to be resourceful in terms of getting other people involved, trying to hop quickly, but it was a true startup. The conference has thrived on the biggest stages, with Villanova winning national championships in 2016 and 2018, and UConn in 2023 and 2024. The UConn women were the last team standing 5 times during her tenure: 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, and 2025. As the clock ticks for when Ackerman departs the conference's headquarters at the Empire State Building in Midtown Manhattan, she reflects on her career, and those pinch-me moments start to flood her mind, especially the impact that she has had on women. I hope I showed what women can do, and I hope I've been, at least in a modest way, an example to women who are either in the business and want to move up, or women who want to get in the business, Ackerman said. It can be done, ladies. So how will a person who seems to be everywhere, including traveling to 25 different cities in the last 3 months, slow down to enjoy retirement? I think retirement for me means, it's like some people will do to get a vacation, she said. Ackerman, who is also a member of the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame, the Sports Broadcasting Hall of Fame, and the State of New Jersey Hall of Fame, will also enjoy the spoils of life, but just being a regular person, including being entertained by things that don't resemble sports. I'm an animal lover. We've had a string of cats, including right now, we're taking care of my older daughter's cat. I've tried to maintain and stay true to my athlete roots. I do try to work out, and I love to swim. I've glommed onto the Peloton in recent years to try to starve off the effects of aging. I like to read. My husband, Charlie Rappaport, a retired tax partner at Simpson, Thacher & Bartlett, and I watch our shows every night. I need to watch a French cop show to sort of recharge my battery. The admitted chocoholic plans to spend her time cleaning out her closets, traveling more, focusing on donating to charities, especially environmental causes, and finding anything on BritBox to watch. So, the next person who inherits the Big East knows what they need to do to continue the success Ackerman built. I think when you're in these jobs, you're not in them forever. That's just the nature of the beast. Everyone is working a shift at the end of the day, and I think your hope is that when it was your turn, when the baton got passed to you, you ran a good race, she said. I've climbed the mountains, every mountain that I ever wanted to climb. I've climbed it. If there's a legacy piece, I hope it's at least about what I've done for women and the game of basketball. Irish's love will challenge NFL draft taboos. As the week of the NFL draft commenced, ESPN's Adam Schefter offered insight into the range of picks running back Jeremiah Love could hear his name called during the first round. According to Schefter, the Arizona Cardinals, picking third overall, are having exploratory calls regarding the possibility of trading down. Arizona could also pull off the first surprise of the draft April 23rd, according to Schefter, by sticking at number 3 and handing in a card with Love's name on it. The Notre Dame product is considered a top 3 player based on talent in the draft, with NFL's network Daniel Jeremiah putting him second in his final pre-draft ratings. Most mock drafts have him going to the top 5. Love's wait will not last long. Between the Cardinals picking 3rd, the Tennessee Titans 4th, the New York Giants at number 5, and the Washington Commanders 7th, Love's professional destination is somewhat predetermined, unless another team, with perhaps a better situation for a young running back to enter, wants to move up. If he got past 10, it would be shocking. Pro Football Hall of Fame running back Jerome Bettis told USA Today Sports, I think he should go in the first 6 picks, but if he's there at 11, somebody needs to give all their picks up to go up and get him, because he is a difference maker. You can't say that about a lot of running backs, but he is a difference maker. He's going to change the dynamics of your offense. He's one of those guys that you go get if you have the opportunity to. And I'll say that in the top 5, in the top 6, if you have an opportunity to go up there and get him, you should make that decision to go up and get him, because he is going to be a guy who can change your offense. As far as position group value, no spot has ever been debated more in recent years than running back. Taking a back in the first round became taboo, save for the elite talents such as Christian McCaffrey, Bijan Robinson, and Ashton Jeanty. But it also worked for the Detroit Lions, who surprised the league by selecting Jahmyr Gibbs 12th in 2023. The Kansas City Chiefs, picking 9th, were a popular mock draft destination. For Love entering free agent, they ultimately signed reigning Super Bowl MVP Kenneth Walker III. Not one running back went in the first round in 2 of the last 4 drafts, 2022 and 2024. What teams picking in the top half of the first round often have to balance, though, is whether to address other parts of the roster that would ideally make any running back's life easier. The Giants took Saquon Barkley 2nd overall in 2018, only to watch him run into a brick wall at the line of scrimmage because of the front office's inability to fully address offensive line woes, and then all the way to a Super Bowl title once he signed with the Philadelphia Eagles, who boasted a complete team and elite blocking unit. You don't want to waste carries on a bad team with a running back. You want to build it up and then drop the running back in, Jeremiah said on a conference call with reporters. Jeremiah said Love should be in play for the Titans at 4th, but he's not the biggest fan of what Tennessee did this offseason on the offensive side. He is still okay with breaking his own rule to bringing Love into the building and then worrying about addressing other parts of the roster in free agency next year. Part of why Jeremiah is comfortable doing that, he said, is that Love can be a factor in the passing game as well. These running backs now are so accomplished as receivers that they're much more than a running back, said ESPN's Mel Kiper Jr., who was an early adopter of passing on the first-round running back until recently. You can put him slot, you can put him wide. I always said, you grade on ability, you don't grade on philosophy. Pairing Love with the young quarterback could pay dividends, Bettis said. I look at a team like the Washington Commanders, a team that had some success and then they took a step back, Bettis said. And now you say, okay, let's take some pressure off our young quarterback. But if I can get a young quarterback coupled with a young running back, and I've got a decade with two players, now all of a sudden we've got something really special. With Jaden Daniels entering his third season under center in Washington, the Commanders lack the resources to move up and would almost certainly have to hope he's on the board at number 7. Tennessee could pair him with 2025 number 1 pick quarterback Cam Ward, and the Giants also have a second-year signal caller in Jackson Dart. Love's big play ability is what the highlight reels show, Bettis said. But what separates Love from other backs, says Bettis, a former Notre Dame running back himself, is his toughness in short yardage scenarios. Love, at 6 foot and 212 pounds, ran a 4.36 second 40 at the NFL Scouting Combine in March. When you look at a running back, how many opportunities are you going to have to break one? Maybe once in a game if you're lucky, but you'll have 5 opportunities to get a 3rd and 1, a 3rd and 2, and I think those are the tough yards that when you draft a running back, yes, you want him to be a game breaker, but he has to be able to get those tough physical yards, said Bettis, who knows plenty about tough running between the tackles. And a lot of times when you have the Ferrari back there, he can't really do that. Well, this is a young man who's physically gifted in what he can play in between the tackles and be that physical pounder if you need him to. Whichever team turns in the card for Love will certainly need him to be both. You're listening to a reading of today's issue of USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 13 minutes after the hour. New Falcons general manager ready for the draft and any trade offers. Ian Cunningham is heading into his first NFL draft as the Atlanta Falcons general manager without a first-round pick. Yet, in another sense, the first-time GM will indeed be in the mix when the Los Angeles Rams, who obtained the choice from Atlanta last year, turn in their card for the 13th pick overall on April 23rd. I've been thinking about this, trying to get a dry run like what would it have been like, Cunningham said April 20th during the team's pre-draft press conference. We're on the clock at 13 to try to get an extra rep at it, maybe. So just trying to find some little things that we may be able to do, kind of stay engaged, but also you got to get some practice. Now that's a different twist for a mock draft. The GM getting mental reps. Imagine who you could have had. Of course, there's nothing like the real thing. Barring a trade, the Falcons won't make a selection until halfway through the second round, April 24th, when they are pegged to pick 48th overall. What a long wait. We'll be here, chimed in Kevin Stefanski, the new Falcons coach, alongside Cunningham. The Falcons, one of 6 teams without a first-round pick, have just 5 picks overall in the draft, with choices in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 6th, and 7th rounds, at least as it stands now. Although Cunningham, 40, is mindful that he doesn't have much capital in this year's draft to include in trade offers, he won't rule out deals to acquire more picks or even work his way into the first round. In 2022, when Cunningham was assistant GM, the Chicago Bears entered the draft with 5 picks and left with 11 selections. Before that, he was a member of the Philadelphia Eagles staff that worked with just 5 draft picks in both 2018 and 2019. So we've been in both situations, Cunningham said. We're comfortable sitting and waiting and taking 5 players that are going to help us now and in the future. We're really excited about the opportunity. On Thursday, we'll be watching and we'll see what may happen. Who knows, but we're excited. It's just the Falcons' luck and another hard knock for a franchise that has a streak of 8 seasons without a winning record or playoff berth, that the player the previous regime drafted last year with the extra first-round pick obtained from the Rams is embroiled in a legal situation that threatens his NFL career. James Pierce Jr., who led NFL rookies with 10.5 sacks in 2025, is facing 3 felony charges stemming from a February 7th domestic incident involving his former girlfriend, WNBA player Rickea Jackson. Pending the outcome of 2 hearings this week, Pierce, who was not participating in Phase 1 of the Falcons' off-season program, could face trial on May 4th. Neither the coach nor GM would address Pierce's status on April 20. Said Cunningham, everything's status quo. Undoubtedly, Pierce's predicament weighs on the Falcons' draft. Pierce, an outside linebacker, was a finalist for NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year honors in 2025 that went to Browns linebacker Carson Schwessinger, that the Falcons, then headed by GM Terry Fontenot and head coach Raheem Morris, were aggressive in last year's draft by obtaining a second first-round pick, has backfired. Yet it also underscores an option, trading away a future first-round pick that Cunningham could employ if tempted to trade into the first round this week or higher in the second round. The needs include linebacker, defensive tackle, and wide receiver. Without much ammunition to offer from this year's picks, it will take some creativity if Atlanta targets a player who can be had at a desirable spot. There's ways, Cunningham allowed. We've been going through some of these scenarios trying to find value, right? Value of certain players, prospects, positions internally. So we'll have some of those conversations, whether or not we want to trade up or go get the player. But not having a lot of draft picks this year, there's other methods that you can go to if there's a player that you highly love. Another possibility could involve a package that includes a dealing franchise tag tight end Kyle Pitts. Asked if Pitts is on the trading block, Cunningham was coy with his response. I would say for all the players, we're going to listen, he said. I wouldn't just say Kyle. That's our job. That doesn't mean it's going to happen, but you can call. We'll listen. In other words, make us an offer that we can't refuse. And that's for the real draft, not the mock draft. Dominic Smith gives Braves instant big jolt in 26. For the last 3 years, Dominic Smith has waited for the phone to ring, for a guaranteed job to emerge, for an assurance that his baseball life will continue unfettered. Then the winter will grow colder, the employment offers no less certain, and Smith will steel himself for the weeks ahead. A spring training invite, a job to win, perhaps an opt-out to find greener pastures, or a humbling trip to the minor leagues that would seem beneath a valued veteran first baseman. And then Smith, now 30, returns to his mantras of faith and self-confidence to realize another team will recognize his skills, but perhaps most important, his humanity that can galvanize a clubhouse over however long a team will have him around for the 162-game grind. Through it all, Smith's belief will not waver. It's never stressful, Smith, now the primary designated hitter for the Atlanta Braves, tells USA Today Sports. It's a blessing to play this game. Whether it's overseas, if it's in AAA, this is a game. Life is way more important outside the game to put that much stress on yourself. I just believe in God and believe God is always going to make things work, and look where I am at. That's why I have this mindset. This spring, it has guided him not just through professional uncertainty, but also personal tragedy. Smith did not sign with the Braves until February 19th, a week after the spring training camp opened. It was then that his mother, Yvette LaFleur, nearly perished after she was diagnosed with cancer in September. It left Smith in a near impossible position, aiming to make the team while balancing his mother, diminishing time left. He left camp for 1 week to be at Yvette's side in Los Angeles and then returned to Florida to win a job. She died while he was away. What transpired since says even more about Smith. In his first start for the Braves on March 28th, Smith became the first player in Major League history to hit a walk-off grand slam in his debut with the club. Smith admittedly got choked up a bunch of times, thinking about his mother amid the celebration. And as this young season unfolds, Smith has only become more integral in the Braves' stunning 16-7 start. He flipped another game with the 3-run double in the bottom of the 8th to beat Miami on April 15th. The hitter, with a career .252 average and .316 on-base percentage, is slashing. .345 slash .362 slash .600 with 4 home runs and likely has a lock on the DH job, at least against right-handed pitchers, even when Sean Murphy returns from injury. Perhaps more significant is his impact on Atlanta in just a few weeks. Everybody loves Dom. He's a tremendous human being, says first-year Braves manager Walt Weiss. He's been through a lot, right? He's had to deal with DFAs. He's had to deal with garbage stuff that the players, if you stick around long enough, have to deal with. There's a lot of experience, a lot of wisdom there. There's also a lot of perspective, a lot of humility through it all. Just a wonderful, wonderful guy, and I'm glad we have him. It is a common sentiment wherever Smith goes. He's lived a few baseball lives since the New York Mets selected him 11th overall in the 2013 draft. Smith debuted in 2017, but by 2019, Pete Alonso arrived with a .53 homer season. Smith batted .299 with a .936 OPS across the 2019 and COVID-shortened 2020 seasons, but tumbled to below league average production the following 2 seasons. By 2022, the Mets optioned him to Class AAA for 54 games and non-tendered him after the season. The Washington Nationals gave him his last guaranteed deal, 1 year, $2 million, and he spent the year a Sage for a 91-loss team. Since then, spring invites to the Cubs and Yankees, minor league trips to Durham and Scranton, brief stints with the Red Sox and Reds in 2024, before hooking on with the San Francisco Giants last June. It was there that he fully emerged as a glue guy on a club that would eventually fire manager Bob Melvin and significantly alter the franchise by trading for Rafael Devers 2 weeks after Smith's arrivals. The Giants went 81-81, and at times they felt like a miracle. He was crucial to the success we had last year. He kept us alive for a lot of it, says Giants third baseman Matt Chapman. He knew how to take a good at-bat, how to do what the situation calls for. You see what he's doing right now? He has the ability to really, really swing the bat and play well. He's never too high, never too low, and has a knack for getting the big hit, which is why you saw him come up the clutch so much. And for a guy who's never hit more than 12 home runs in a season and only twice played more than 100 games, Smith has found a way to communicate what he can bring to a team. It is challenging within the context of making a team out of a spring training or convincing another one to carve out a major league roster spot to leapfrog organizations. Yet, that is where that Dom Smith energy comes into play. It's not easy to do when your back's against the wall, says Chapman. A lot of people could be pissed off about not getting an opportunity or feel like they've been slighted. He didn't have that energy. He always had good energy, showed up and did what he was asked to do. That's very respectable and why me and him are going to be close for a long time. Nationals shortstop C.J. Adams says he and Smith remain close and talk often on the phone. He learns from Smith the art of self-care, the importance of diet, and the concept of availability as the best ability. When the opportunity presents little, he comes and gets the job done, says Abrams. As you can see right now, he's doing this thing. As Smith adds stamps to his baseball passport, he sees the value of his accrued experiences, the compact pressure of playing in Boston, the glare of New York, and with San Francisco and Atlanta, getting tutelage from franchise legends Barry Bonds and Chipper Jones, all the while knowing thyself. Understand who you are, Smith puts it. For me, the best thing was being available and being able to compete at a high level. Not necessarily put up the all-star numbers, but compete. I think that's what teams value. Guys that they don't have to worry about. Guys who put together good at-bats. I've been around for a while now, so I understand the value to a team so they don't lose a beat, regardless of what happens internally. Sometimes those internal developments can roil a squad. This spring, the Braves lost left fielder Jurickson Profar to a PED suspension for the second consecutive year. The multiple offenses costing Profar all 162 games of 2026. Given they were down an entire rotation due to injury, it looked like another dark cloud that would produce the Braves' second consecutive sub.500 win season after winning 7 consecutive division titles. Instead, the Braves are tied with the Dodgers for the most wins in baseball, the clubhouse and its first-year manager seemingly in lockstep, and GM Alex Anthopoulos holding steady even as pitching injuries threaten to sink the season. Alex preaches having a positive attitude to the ball club, says Smith, who also lauds Anthopoulos for understanding guys and understanding what being a good human means. That's the biggest thing, coming in here open-minded and just help them win. It's a great ball club and we have World Series aspirations. We want to play meaningful games, playoff games, World Series games. It was a dream come true how it all unfolded. Then again, Smith has a knack for making his own breaks, even when nothing's guaranteed, even when the personnel turmoil could have sidetracked him. To have that uncertainty held over you, says Chapman, and now the story's out, but he was battling things off the field with his mom. For him to be able to get to the field and do what he just shows how special he is. You're listening to a reading of today's issue of USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Rating Service. The time is 33 minutes after the hour. This is the Life section. Garth retraces her path from 90210 to chasing joy. Actress Jenny Garth knows her husband Dave Abrams has divorce papers tucked inside a manila envelope somewhere in the house. She's already signed them. He has not. The couple married in 2013 and separated in 2017. Abrams filed for divorce a year later, but in 2019 the two reconciled after a retreat to Joshua Tree. Abrams brought the documents on the trip, thinking he might sign and finalize the agreement. The solitude of the desert helped them realize that they were meant for each other. Garth writes in her new memoir, I Chose Me, Chasing Joy, Finding Purpose, and Embracing Reinvention. How did the soulmates get so close to the brink? Garth points to the stress of unsuccessful in vitro fertilization, or IVF. We were both going through all these intense emotions individually, and we weren't coming together and being there for one another because we were both just so upset and afraid, Garth, 54, tells USA Today. That just kind of clogged the communication more and more. Garth has been on a physical and mental health journey since her days as Kelly Taylor on the iconic teen soap Beverly Hills 90210, which spanned a decade and defined a generation of TV. Excursions to Bali and therapy helped. Diets and food deprivation did not. In the memoir, the actress imparts a few lessons she has learned along the way, including the theory of we'll see, based on a Chinese parable where a farmer doesn't get immediately attached to outcomes, instead waiting to see how things play out. There also is her view on marriage as a circle, square, circle, where each partner is their own individual circle, and the square is in the middle, where we actively put energy and focus where our relationship lives. Part of the shared energy in her marriage is their mutual commitment to sobriety. Garth is candid throughout her memoir about her history of substance abuse, specifically mixing alcohol with prescription pills. Abrams owns a bar, the Douglas, near Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles. He got sober by choice, and I decided to just do it with him, Garth says. The more I didn't drink, the better I felt. My sleep is more important to me than a martini. Garth has now been sober for a few years. Garth's memoir covers her origins growing up in Illinois and Arizona before taking the leap at 17 and moving to Hollywood with her mother to chase her dreams. Like the character she portrayed on TV, Garth found it easy to get along with everyone. But as the show's love triangle among Kelly, Dylan, played by Luke Perry, and Brenda, Shannon Doherty, grew, so did a rivalry between the real-life actresses. When the cast would meet fans of the show, Garth recalls, it became apparent that you were either Team Kelly or Team Brenda. We didn't know how to navigate all the things that were being thrown at us. Such a fast pace, she continues. This was long before the days of social media. Garth laughs at the impact it would have had. Oh, that would have been a disaster, she said. If there was Instagram or TikTok when the show was on in the 90s, I can't even imagine, given how crazy it already was without it. There was little guidance on how to separate life from art. It was unfortunate the way the show, and then the world, pitted us against each other, Garth writes of Doherty. It didn't serve us in supporting each other, but I still learned a lot from her. She taught me how to walk through fire without flinching. She taught me how to stand up to people who tried to shrink us. Today, she has more perspective on the drama. I give us all actually a lot of credit because we have all turned into really good adults. I'm really proud of the relationships that we formed then and now, she said. And that includes absolutely my relationship with Shannon. She was an incredible woman. Garth can't still remember exactly where she was when she found out Perry and Doherty died in 2019 and 2024, respectively. Their deaths inspired her to live her life to the fullest. When you go through grief and loss, you start to have just a new appreciation for every moment, Garth says. And when you lose someone suddenly, that really puts that in perspective. You also realize at a certain age that you get one shot at life, you know? In I Choose Me, Garth writes that in 2020, she sought out Dr. Daniel Aman to diagnose her struggles with depression, anxiety, and memory loss. A brain scan showed evidence of a past brain injury. Garth recalls 2 incidents from filming Beverly Hills 90210 in which she may have suffered a concussion. The first happened while Garth and Perry were filming on a boat in the ocean. The crew took a break for lunch, and the 2 actors, with their bodyguards, rowed back to shore on separate jet skis. Garth says she got caught in a fisherman's line off the pier and was yanked into the water. Luke must have been behind me because that's when his jet ski hit me in the head, she says. I just went underwater, and the next thing I remember was just being pulled up by my life preserver. After a quick checkup at a local hospital, accompanied by Perry, the 2 resumed filming later in the day. I remember the paramedic was saying, "Who's the President of the United States?" Garth recalls. And I remember Luke saying, "Don't ask her that. She doesn't know." That's how our relationship was. In a separate incident, Garth remembered a halogen light fixture falling from a rig and smashed into her head. Unlike the jet ski accident, she doesn't remember what happened after the incident, also noting that there was blood and she lost a few strands of hair. Sets are a lot more professional now than they used to be, Garth notes. In the 90s, it was kind of like a free-for-all. People were smoking off camera while they're delivering their lines off camera to you. They tried to hold the cigarette back so the smoke didn't cover the lens. We were kids, so we were just doing whatever kids do. Now, a mom in Hollywood in her 50s, she shares 3 daughters with her ex-husband, Peter Fasinelli. Luca, 28, Lola, 23, and Fiona, 19. Garth acknowledges how hard it is to make connections later in life. She's trying to change this for herself, and the Era tour helped. Garth agreed to go on a girls' trip with her daughter and another mother-daughter pair to see Taylor Swift in Miami. While the daughters were friends, the mothers didn't know each other. Garth typically wouldn't have agreed. She had previously caught one of the artist's concerts in Los Angeles, but knew this would be something her daughter would remember. The 2 mothers hit it off and remained friends. There's people out there that are role models who shouldn't be, and then there are people that handle it with class and dignity, Garth says. I think Taylor's really done a beautiful job of caring enough about her fans to be a good influence on them. Her daughter Lola is now one of her collaborators. She helps her mom with a clothing line sold through QVC. Garth will also add home decor collections to her repertoire in July, in addition to her podcast and live event ventures with iHeartMedia. I feel like for so long life was just rolling and I was rolling with the punches. And now as an adult, I feel like I can have a better perspective and I can make choices that feel like the right ones. Just the freedom to be able to choose. What do I want for this next chapter of my life? For me, I wanted to build something in my 50s that I had already dreamed of building, and something I could leave for my girls one day. Green gives Alabama a shout out without a diss. Riley Green wants to make it clear that when his Marshall's TV character takes a swipe at Alabama, that's pure acting. Green, 37, is making his acting debut as the former Navy SEAL Garrett in 4 episodes of the CBS Yellowstone spinoff, Sundays at 8 p.m. Garrett reunites with former SEAL Casey Dutton, played by Luke Grimes, and during drinks utters a Bama Slam reference to the I-20 interstate. The only good thing to come out of there, Garrett says of Alabama, is the I-20, myself included. I certainly need to clarify that, Green tells USA Today, speaking from his 680-acre farm outside Jacksonville, Alabama, his beloved home state. One thing about my fans, especially my Alabama fans, they know how I feel about being from here, and I am proud of this area where I'm from. And that's Hollywood, folks. I did think it was cool that my character was written as being from Alabama, Green adds. There's a reason behind Garrett's diss. The line instantly tells a story about the troubled veteran who arrives to Montana by bus, carrying little more than a guitar case. The statement signals that Garrett is rough and that growing up where he did caused that, Green says. The acting debut of the Ain't My Last Rodeo singer is a well-timed Marshall's coup. The 6'4" country artist is a force who just received 4 nominations for the 61st Academy of Country Music Awards, including Best Male Artist and Album of the Year for Don't Mind If I Do. With those piercing blue eyes, natural comic timing, and rugged appeal, Green was bound to land somewhere in the Taylor Sheridan verse. Green pulled the Marshalls gig from Nashville songwriting sessions with Grimes for the budding country singer's album, Red Bird. I mentioned that I had some interest in acting, Green says. I didn't know it would turn into a job so quickly. Grimes certainly threw me a bone getting me on the show. The Marshals' backstory: Garrett fought in Afghanistan with Casey and his U.S. Marshals boss, Pete Calvin, played by Logan Marshall Green, who was wary about Garrett's mysterious reappearance. Green's first scene involved an intense PTSD experience, waking up with night terrors in Casey's house. They threw it on me so fast I didn't have to get nervous about it, Green says. I wanted this to be a real acting gig, and I was lucky. The character has a lot of range, and there's a lot of emotion. He's a really kind of damaged guy. The rapport with Grimes and Garrett's campfire singing moment in the April 26th episode came naturally. Green had his song, My Way, in his back pocket. When I was told I was performing, I didn't know I was at first. I thought 100% this song was so perfect for that moment, he says. There are some songs that are very cowboy-type songs. The campfire song scene showcases that Casey Dutton is still missing his late Yellowstone wife, Monica, played by Kelsey Asbile, who died off-screen before the transition to the CBS Primetime series. Obviously, Casey's wife is no longer with us, Green says. The song is all about missing a lost love. Casey tears up, and it's not just from the campfire smoke. Besides the guitar, Green also brought his trademark mustache to Marshall's. The singer was surprised that producer didn't ask him to change a thing. I guess I look sort of Western with the mustache, the scruffy beard, and I cut my own hair half the time when I'm on the road. It isn't much of a stretch from me what Garrett looks and dresses like. The bonus for fans is that Green had to keep the stash during 2 months of filming for continuity. His fans mourn on social media when the different round hair singer spontaneously shaves. The tough part for me through these 2 months of filming was I couldn't wake up and shave in the morning if I wanted to. I'm pretty bad. If it's hot out, I just shave it off randomly. Green won't say what happens with Garrett at the end of 4 episodes, teasing that there's a possibility that he could come back. But there's already is more interest in Green's acting, including a random call from the Screen Actors Guild. Somebody called me from SAG office trying to give me a check for some show that I was on one time, and they wanted my social security number, Green says. I wouldn't give it to them over the phone. They said, "We need to validate you." I said, "Hell, you called me." Green believes his Corgi Blue Heeler mix, Carl, a frequent star at his concerts, could eclipse his Hollywood career if the dog didn't love the Alabama farm so much. I noticed pretty quick on the road that people in the meet and greet line are looking at my feet. They just want to see if Carl is there. He knows he's famous. It's just that he got it made down here on the farm. Stevie, Jennifer, and Shrek turn out to honor Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy proved to be the undisputed king of comedy as the latest recipient of the American Films Institute Life Achievement Award on April 18th. An all-star comedy slate of Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle, Martin Lawrence, Kevin Hart, Tracy Morgan, Coming to America co-star Arsenio Hall, Saturday Night Live star Kenan Thompson, and Bill Burr paid respects to Murphy, 65, at the Dolby Theater Honors. Mike Myers appeared in green Shrek face makeup and ears to honor Murphy, the famed voice of the beloved donkey in the animated movies. Jennifer Hudson belted songs from Dreamgirls, the 2006 musical which featured Murphy in an Oscar-nominated performance. Even Stevie Wonder, famously imitated by Murphy in his NSL days, made a surprise appearance to share his love for his longtime friend. I wish you could all feel what I'm feeling and see what I'm seeing, Murphy said from the podium during his acceptance speech. I'd like to thank everybody for giving me this night that I'll remember forever and ever. Stevie Wonder came, Jennifer Hudson turned out. Everybody said such nice things about me. It was a fitting tribute to the groundbreaking star of Beverly Hills Cops, Boomerang, Shrek, 48 Hours, The Nutty Professor, and Coming to America, who proved dramatic range is such films as Dreamgirls and Dolomite Is My Name. I feel like I've distinguished myself as a performer, Murphy said in an interview that aired throughout the evening. Put my body of work against whoever, they'll laugh more at my stuff. Murphy, who rose to fame on NSL from 1980 to 1984, with such characters as Buckwheat, Wheat, and Gumby, listened to the tributes while seated next to his wife, Paige Butcher, and many of his 10 children. All of your children are here, Eddie, Rock said. You've got like 20 kids, but you also have comedian children. Tracy Morgan, Kevin Hart, Dave Chappelle. There is no us without you, okay? Myers showered praise on Murphy, who voices Donkey in 4 hit films, with a new one expected in 2027. None of the Shrek success could have happened without Eddie Murphy. His character Donkey is a masterpiece, Myers said, as is every character that Eddie has created. It is an absolute honor to be able to tell my kids that I got to work with Eddie Murphy. Hart called Murphy a brother, a mentor, an inspiration, and damn it, you're an idol. Wonder was a surprise guest greeted with wild applause from the audience. Eddie and I found each other because he would imitate me on Saturday Night Live, Wonder said. He made fun of a blind man, and he made me and the world laugh. Wonder said that the two have become lifetime friends. Eddie has shown me and us the power and courage of being funny, Wonder said. It's not easy to make people smile. Eddie has a way of getting into our heads and hearts for a belly laugh that eases pain, builds a bridge. That is power. Filmmaker Spike Lee missed a precious New York Knicks NBA playoff game to present Murphy with the AFI honor. I came out for you, Lee said, and on every step of this journey, Eddie has been true to himself, putting his family first. He is a great artist, not just a comedian. Murphy reflected on his many blessings. I just had my first grandson and my third granddaughter, and I just turned 65, Murphy said. I feel like it's raining blessings on me this month, and to get this award and still look like myself, because sometimes they wait until you're really old. The AFI Life Achievement Awards ceremony honoring Eddie Murphy will stream May 31st on Netflix. Recent recipients include Francis Ford Coppola, Nicole Kidman, Julie Andrews, and Denzel Washington. Divergent authors' next two installments offer an alternate timeline. It's been 15 years since Divergent published, but Veronica Roth isn't done with Tris quite yet. The best-selling author announced at BookCon on April 18th she's written a new companion duology set in an alternate timeline to Divergent. What if Tris hadn't transferred to Dauntless, the faction of bravery? Not a prequel, not a sequel, not a spin-off, not a different POV, but an alternate universe of Divergent, where Tris chooses a different faction, Roth tells USA Today in an interview before BookCon. I think the question of who is Tris without Dauntless is an interesting one. The sixth faction is out October 6th. Here's what we need to know so far. In Divergent, Beatrice Pryor learned she could choose any faction after her test because she was divergent, a rare individual who possesses traits of multiple factions. She left her home in abnegation and chose Dauntless. But in the sixth faction, a tragedy strikes at her choosing ceremony and everything changes. The decision she makes thrusts her into an underground rebellion where she meets a boy hiding his own secrets. This boy, he's described only as having a number for a name. We can guess who that is. Tobias 4 Eaton, Tris's love interest? The sixth faction is a tour de force. We are thrilled to explore this new take on the Divergent world with Veronica, who has taken her storytelling talents to new heights that will thrill longtime fans of the series and delight readers new to the world, says Erica Sussman, Vice President and Publisher at HarperCollins Children's Books, in a statement. Roth says that the sixth faction also can be read as a standalone novel, but she's particularly looking forward to readers getting a new glimpse at the Divergent universe. For existing fans, I'm excited for them to see how the old and the new fold together, Roth tells USA Today. You think that certain things wouldn't happen because she makes a different choice, but she does find her way to the same people. Seeing how that happens is really fun part of it. The Divergent series was adapted into 3 films starring Shailene Woodley and Theo James. Divergent 2013, Insurgent 2015, and Alley Giant 2016. Roth has continued publishing dystopia novels since the success of Divergent. Her latest is a wide-ranging adult romantic fantasy, Seek the Trailer Sun, out May 12th. You've been listening to a reading of USA Today for Wednesday, April 22nd, 2026. We read the USA Today weekdays at noon. For more information, call us at 716-821-5555. Your reader for this hour has been Nancy.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have episode number 3 of We Did Okay Kid by Sir Anthony Hopkins. Following that at 3 o'clock is Healthy Living, and at 4 o'clock a re-airing of today's Buffalo News. Stay with us. The following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability.